So in case you didn't hear or you were just unaware, this Tuesday there were some buffs and nerfs. Nothing too crazy going on, except for the fact that the Graviton Lance got that juicy 67% PvE damage buff. Now, we already did spend 4 whole minutes just talking about this pulse rifle in its own video, and today we're taking it to the next level, talking about an entirely whole build that you can use to take the fullest advantage of this new buff. And let me tell you, it's really fun. Even in the middle of an arc heavy theme season, Void is still pretty nasty. We do have some Void mods this season to help us out. However, when those do inevitably go away, this build's still gonna fry. This gun's not gonna just all of a sudden lose that damage buff, unless of course the spaghetti code does some shenanigans. But my main point is that we are not relying on any of these seasonal mods to throw this build together. They're just extra spices of flavor that we can add to the dish that only complement it. So for the core of the build, it's going to revolve around 2 exotics. In the weapons department, we have, of course, the Graviton Lance. This gun has been on a bit of a journey, along with exotic primaries in general. As we know, before lightfall, exotic primaries got a 40% damage buff, side of PvE, and then in season 20, pulse rifles got a 20% damage buff to red bars, and now it got a 67% damage buff just in PvE altogether. So if we just do some good old quick maths, since the start of this year, this gun has gotten a total overall damage buff in PvE of 107% and 127% to minor enemies because of the season 20 buff. On top of that, it also got its RPM changed to be a 300 RPM from a 257, which is a random specific number. And although its catalyst used to give it Hidden Hand, an old perk that people liked on their snipers back in Destiny 1. I'm looking at you, Her Benevolence. These days, the catalyst gives it Vorpal Weapon, Turnabout, which is pretty free overshields. It'll proc more often than you think it will, just saying. And then a good old 20 range. Obviously, the second shot in each of the bursts is the higher hitting shot from its Black Hole perk. And then its big ad clearing capabilities, Crowd Control, is that good old Cosmology perk. Basically gives this gun free bloom and mini Axion darts. And that's one side of the coin. Now we gotta go ahead and look at the most saturated side of the coin. I'm talking about the GearFalcon chest piece. How many builds on YouTube have we seen with this chest piece being the center of it? Well, unfortunately, or fortunately, just depending on how you look at it, it's just that good. And for a Void gun, if you want to take it to the next level, the easiest way to do that is a GearFalcon's chest piece. Now, you could totally do this on maybe another class. Maybe if we go Void Lock, you know, whip on those good old Controverse holds. But we're going to be talking on the Hunter side of things for this video and for this build. As we know, this bad boy grants your Void weapons volatile rounds for 10 seconds upon exiting your Void invisibility. That's the main perk that this chest piece is known for. However, there's a few other things that it's doing for you. If you are invisible and you finish an enemy, you will grant yourself a 35% weapon damage buff for 6 seconds. You grant you and your allies within a 24-meter radius or reserve overshield. And on top of that, you're going to get some additional class ability regen when you do get a finisher while invisible. And then when you consume your class ability, that is when you will grant yourself the reserve overshield for 10 seconds. Yeah, upon reading everything that this chest piece does out loud, it's no wonder it's used on so many Void Hunter builds. Alright, so we got our core of the build. We know what it's doing. Let's build out the subclass to make it even better. Now, I really feel like because the exotics and the core is so strong, you have a lot of freedom with your subclass. However, I'm just going to tell you what I've been using and really been enjoying. For the aspects, we're going to go with the good old tried and true Vanishing Step. That is just on-demand invisibility. You can literally never go wrong with it. Personally, I'm using Gambler's Dodge just so I can get my Smoke Bomb back, which acts as a form of weakening, which Void Hunters are just great at applying a debuff. And it also just helps out our other aspect so much, that being none other than Stylus Executioner. I feel like this one is pretty self-explanatory for a GearFalcon build. Defeating a weakened, suppressed, or volatile target grants invisibility and true sight, meaning you can use the GearFalcons to literally chain itself over and over and over again. And I can't stop shooting over and over again. And I can't stop shooting all of them. Because the build's so rad, it makes you their dad. Because all the enemies are dead. We pack invis over and over again. Oh my god. Yo, shout out to Nelly, bro. At least some of his older songs. Here comes the... Alright, we got our 2 aspects in Vanishing Step and Stylish Executioner. Our fragments, we're going to be using Echo of Starvation to give us Devour, for that good old survivability, Echo of Instability to give you volatile rounds whenever you kill an enemy with your grenade. Honestly, you could probably change this one out for Echo of Cessation. This causes a void explosion whenever you finish an enemy that can cause nearby enemies to become volatile, which because of Stylus Executioner can allow you to start your crazy cycle of destroying everything with your Graviton. It'll also spawn void breaches whenever you kill a volatile enemy, which that's gonna happen a lot. I haven't used this fragment personally, but there's no way it could be bad. Another reason I mentioned Echo of Cessation is because we are going to also be using Echo of Obscurity, finish your final blows, grant us invisibility. Once again, another source to help us go invisible, to proc our Gear Falcons when we come out, get volatile rounds cooking again. And then our last fragment, just gonna keep it simple, Echo of Undermining. Your void grenades, weaken targets. Once again, that combos right back into Stylus Executioner. Everything in our subclass is designed to either A, help us go invisible, or B, help us get volatile rounds. If we can get either of those procced, we can start the cycle of madness. That cycle of madness being a volatile Graviton Lance proccing Cosmology all over the place with volatile rounds while having Devour and Void Overshield. Pretty enjoyable chaos, and definitely makes shooting your gun feel worth it again. Especially for a primary. Haha! Now, I guess we'll talk about some of the other weapons you would use on this type of setup outside of our pulse rifle. Our lone singular special weapon is going to reside in the kinetic slot, so you're kind of limited. I'll just give you the main options right off the rip, right? The new specific epitaph, which is the stasis waveframe from the new dungeon, because it's a waveframe in the kinetic slot. Of course, a chill clip Riptide or Deliverance. I fucking love that thing. Maybe a good slug depending on your situation. And the last kinetic weapon I'll recommend would be something like a Supremacy or a Succession. Your kinetic weapon doesn't play a role in this build literally at all. Just use whatever kinetic weapon you want, as long as it's not a primary, because don't use double primary. It's not 2017 anymore. For your heavy weapon, I'm going to recommend a Void LMG. Something like Commemoration, Retrofit Escapade, or Corrective Measure will absolutely do you justice if you are doing a boss damage scenario. If you're doing boss damage, just put on a rocket launcher, keep it simple. Or hey, if you really want to, bro, Target Lock Retrofit, still kind of nasty. If there's like a Void Surge, go ahead and try that out. But outside of the Graviton Lance itself, the weapons really don't play too much of effect. A heavy can, because you can have a Void Heavy. You can't have a Void Kinetic weapon. That would be really weird. But you kind of have the door a bit wide open for your other weapons that you want to use. Just make sure you're using the Graviton Lance. That's kind of the point. And your actual armor mods really don't matter that much because your subclass and exotics are doing all of the heavy lifting for you. I'll still flash out the mods that I'm using on screen just in case you want to copy it exactly. I don't know. But I would say some of the more important ones, maybe something like Dynamo to help get your tether back a bit quicker. Although, because you're using a primary, you'll be getting your super back really fast. Maybe a Void Surge or two on your boots just to help your Graviton Lance and your Void Heavy do just that much more damage. And whenever they re-enable the impact induction and bolstering detonation mods on the gloves, I'll use a copy of those. For the time being, I'm using a damn Void Dexterity and a Void Loader. Also, a Bomber, Reaper, and a Time Dilation don't hurt to have on your class item. Oh, before I forget, Void Siphon. Very important mod to have on your helmet. I don't know how I almost forgot about that. That's very important to make your orbs, so you can proc your Devourer. And that's basically everything about the build that we have to go over. Obviously, because you are on a Void Hunter, your playstyle might be just a little bit slower, especially because our main weapon here is a Pulse Rifle, so it will be slightly better at range combat. But if you got just a lot of ads on you, I'm telling you, a couple bursts from this will just wipe out an entire room of trash ads. You're going to be having constant volatile rounds, plenty of survivability because of Devourer and the Overshields you'll be getting from Turnabout, and the Gear Falcons itself, on top of being able to throw out some pretty strong debuffs via your tether, grenade, and your smoke. Not only that, but you got so many ways to go invis with this setup. You are never not going to be able to go invis and proc your volatile rounds somehow. There's always going to be at least one way. If you're completely out of abilities, just finish an enemy, big dog, and boom, you're back to cycling the chaos of madness. Anyways, everybody, that's gonna wrap it up for the video. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts and opinions. Do consider subscribing. Y'all be safe, and we'll see you in the next one.